Space is silent, but silence does not mean peace. The Milky Way of the Star Trek universe lies in uneasy equilibrium. The Federation stretches across thousands of light years, a fragile but hopeful alliance of worlds striving toward utopia. Stars burn, civilizations endure, and history continues its slow march forward, until something impossible happens. It begins as a faint distortion beyond the galactic core. No warp signature. No subspace disturbance. No quantum ripple. Not even Q leaves no trace, but this leaves less than that. It is an absence of presence, a gravitational void that sensors cannot quantify. A location in space where laws collapse politely and then refuse to stand back up. Deep within Federation space, the USS Enterprise E patrols the outer territories. On the bridge, the crew is calm, routine operations underway. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stands with hands clasped behind his back, ever composed. Data. Captain, long-range sensors detect a spatial anomaly forming approximately 12.4 light-years from our present course. However, it does not exist. Picard's brow arches. Explain, Mr. Data. Data hesitates, something he rarely does. Data. Sensors confirm a location with measurable coordinates but without measurable properties. Space exists there. And yet, reality refuses to acknowledge it. Riker leans forward in his chair, humor absent from his tone. Riker, so we're detecting nothing? Data, negative, Commander. We are detecting something that registers as less than nothing. The bridge falls silent. Picard adjusts his uniform, the sign of a man preparing for the unknown. Picard, set course. Maximum warp. Warp engines flare. Reality bends. The Enterprise lances through spacetime. As they approach, normal stars blur. Then, something fills the view screen. Not a ship. Not a station. Not a being in any conventional sense. It appears as a sphere of infinite interior light, layered with cosmic geometry that should not exist. Fractal halos folding inward forever, as if the universe is trying to collapse into a concept beyond comprehension. Light radiates from it, but it casts no shadows. Every scientific instrument screams contradictions. Shields ripple not in defense but in awe, as though the ship itself wants to kneel. Worf's jaw tightens. Worf, Captain, this feels wrong. Not dangerous. Not hostile. Just absolute. Picard stares quietly, voice low and reverent. Picard, whatever it is not here to negotiate. Then the light shifts. Communication attempts begin automatically. Hailing frequencies open. Standard greetings broadcast in multiple language frequencies. But then, something happens across every corner of the Milky Way. Every android halts. Every telepath gasps. Every warp field flickers. Every sentient mind experiences a brief instant of clarity so profound that words evaporate. Admiral Catherine Janeway aboard Starfleet Command in San Francisco grips the edge of her desk as the world tilts. Spock on New Vulcan closes his eyes, feeling a presence that is neither energy nor life, but fundamental truth. On Qanos, Klingon priests drop to their knees. On Cardassia, scholars stare in terror. The Borg collective momentarily loses cohesion, voices fracturing into stunned awe. And then, across all communication systems, across every language simultaneously, a voice speaks. Not loud. Not angry. Not emotional. Simply inevitable. I am. The universe trembles. And for the first time in Federation history, every power in the galaxy realizes the same truth. They are standing before something infinite, and it has come to judge them. The Milky Way scrambles. Within hours, emergency communication networks surge to life. Starfleet Command issues a Red Priority 1 alert, the highest threat classification possible. Every major power convenes. Neutral zones dissolve. War preparations halt. Because war is meaningless when facing something beyond creation itself. A storm of admirals fills the command room. Holographic displays flicker with real-time feeds of ships across the quadrant approaching observation positions. The anomaly remains motionless. Quiet. Watching. Janeway speaks sharply. Janeway, we've faced gods before. Q, wormhole prophets. Ascended life forms. Even galaxy-level threats. But this feels different. Admiral Paris shakes his head. Paris, different how? Janeway exhales slowly. Janeway, Those beings wanted something. They played. They tested. They bargained. Whatever this is, it doesn't negotiate. It appraises. Silence. Meanwhile, the Federation Council demands answers. Reports stream in. A Vulcan Science Council confirms no quantum signature. Bajoran prophets fall silent. Q continuum, unresponsive. That last one terrifies everyone. If Q is silent, it means Q is afraid. Across the quadrant, preparations begin. The Bajoran wormhole fluctuates violently. Hurinari stands at the observation deck, watching celestial plasma writhe. The prophets had always answered. They had always spoken. Not now. The wormhole stabilizes, not because it chooses to, but because something greater than it has stabilized it. Miles O'Brien mutters under his breath. O'Brien, whatever's out there, even the gods are holding their breath. Meditation centers overflow. Thousands gather in silent contemplation, minds reaching outward. Every psionic probe returns the same response. A wall of infinite light. Come. Complete. Unchallengeable. Paulus' voice echoes across the Vulcan Science Directorate. T'Pol, we are not encountering a superior civilization. We are encountering the architecture of existence itself. The Klingon High Council roars in confused fury. Klingon do not kneel, but warriors feel their spirits buckle. Martok slams his fist onto the council table. Martok, if this being seeks battle, it will have it. But even his voice lacks conviction. A Klingon priest whispers. Priest, one does not challenge the fire that forged the stars. The collective process is the anomaly. Millions of voices converge. Infinite. Unassimilable. Perfect. And then something horrifying happens. For the first time in Borg history, they acknowledge inferiority. Back aboard the Enterprise E, the crew engages in emergency analysis. Data attempts to categorize the entity. The result is beyond science. Data. Captain, theoretical metaphysics suggests the entity may represent a totality. A unified, omnipotent consciousness intrinsic to all existence. Riker, meaning? Data turns. Data, meaning God, Commander. The word hangs cold and heavy in the air. Picard does not deny it. He simply adjusts course and orders the ship forward. Because humanity has always believed one thing. Judgment comes. They will face it standing. The anomaly changes. Light collapses inward. Infinite geometry smooths into a humanoid silhouette, overwhelmingly radiant, impossible to comprehend, yet merciful enough to be perceived. It does not choose a single location. Instead, it appears everywhere. On the Enterprise bridge, in Starfleet Command, in the Klingon High Council chamber, inside the Borg Unicomplex. Yet it remains one being. A paradox made manifest. Not an avatar. Not a projection. Simply a fraction allowing itself to be seen. In Starfleet headquarters, the being takes form as a luminous human-like figure composed of layered starlight and infinite depth. No face. No gender. No defined species. Only presence. Janeway forces herself to stand straight. Janeway, identify yourself. Silence. Then the voice returns, calm, vast, and terrifyingly gentle. I am the presence. Silence thickens. Some gasp. Some fall to their knees. Others simply freeze. Janeway swallows. Janeway, state your purpose. The universe holds its breath. Humanity and its federation have been deemed of interest. You have been observed. You will now be judged. The word is final. Absolute. There is no protest. No appeal. Not even Q ever spoke like this. But then, something remarkable happens. Picard steps forward. Not with arrogance. Not with fear. But with the unbroken resolve of humanity. Picard, if you would judge us, then at least allow us the dignity to speak. To answer for our existence. To explain who we are. The presence does not move. Yet the universe shifts. You will have your voice. Every major power receives the same notice. Our representatives will gather. Testimonies will be heard. Truth will be revealed. And then judgment will fall. The presence radiates brighter. Know this. I do not judge as mortals do. I judge what you are. Not what you claim to be. Then the entity vanishes. The anomaly remains. Waiting. Watching. Unavoidable. And across the galaxy, a realization spreads. The greatest trial in cosmic history has begun, and the Federation may not survive it. It does not occur on a planet. It does not occur aboard a ship. It occurs in a place beyond space, a neutral plane woven from pure conceptual reality, where time stands perfectly still and physical laws function only because the presence allows them to. A vast chamber forms, cathedral-like in size yet simple in aesthetic. White stone. Infinite ceiling. No technological origin. Delegates arrive not by travel. They simply are there. Jean-Luc Picard. Admiral Catherine Janeway. Spock. Chancellor Martok. A Romulan Praetor delegation. A Borg Queen construct. And others. Leaders of empires, guardians of faith, embodiments of power. They stand together. Uneasy allies before something far beyond war. A luminous radiance forms at the center. It does not impose dominance, yet dominance is inevitable in its existence. It is not energy, deity, or law. It is the fundamental truth of being. The presence manifests. No throne. No symbolism of superiority. Just being. Picard steps forward first. Humanity stands proud. Picard, you demanded to judge us. Then we stand ready to answer for our existence. The chamber trembles faintly, not physically but in meaning. Presence, you are given this audience not to plead innocence but to reveal truth. Martok growls. Martok, if truth is to be spoken, then speak plainly. What crime do you accuse us of? Silence. Then the voice resonates. You claim enlightenment. You claim peace, unity, and moral ascent. Yet your history bleeds with war. Your unity exists only under prosperity. Your compassion fails when cost becomes high. Images fill the chamber. Not illusions. History. World War III. The Eugenics Wars. The Romulan War. The Dominion War. The destruction of Mars. Mass casualties. Civilizations shattered. But humanity also shines before the cosmic court. First contact with Vulcans. The Federation Charter. The rescue of countless worlds. Diplomacy instead of conquest. Kirk's compassion. Picard's reason. Sisko's sacrifices. The presence judges both extremes simultaneously. Presence. You are capable of great good. You are capable of great destruction. The question is not whether you can be better. The question is whether you will be. Pause. Then the entity reshapes the chamber. Now everyone stands aboard Deep Space Nine. A simulation perfect in every detail. The trial begins. Starfleet engages in analysis. They do not panic. They do what humanity always does when faced with the impossible. They think. Data interfaces with every available system. His positronic matrix hums beyond capacity. Readings are contradictory yet consistent in contradiction. Riker, tell me something I can understand, Data? Data pauses thoughtfully. Data, Captain. The entity does not operate within linear dimensionality or quantized energy existence. It is functionally omnipotent by every measurable parameter. Riker exhales slowly. Riker, so there's no winning this. Data turns. Data, Commander, I did not say victory is impossible. I stated traditional strategic victory is impossible. However, this appears to be a moral evaluation, not a tactical confrontation. Picard nods. Picard, then we must demonstrate who we truly are. Strategists gather. Maps. Timelines. Psychological assessment files. But Admiral Nechayev breaks the silence. Nechayev, this isn't a war. This is a final exam for our species. Janeway stands firm. Janeway, then we answer honestly. Without excuses. Without pride. Without shame. If humanity is to stand, it stands as it is. Someone whispers, can we win a judgment from God? Janeway replies quietly, we don't win it. We prove we deserve to exist. The Klingon react differently. Martok addresses his warriors. Martok, we will not grovel. If this being wishes to see who we are, we will show it proudly. Our history is one of conquest, yes, yet also of honor, sacrifice, and loyalty. If the galaxy ends, we meet it as warriors. There is roaring approval. They will not kneel. They will stand defiantly. And in that defiance, oddly, there is dignity. The Romulans approach strategically, cold, analytical, calculating how to survive a god. They analyze human psychology. They identify flaws. They plan to expose them. For if humanity falls, the Romulan Star Empire may rise in its place. Their interest is not justice. It is opportunity. The Borg attempt to calculate divine being confirmation. They fail. They attempt to interface. They fail. They attempt to comprehend perfection. They fail. For the first time, the Queen admits, Borg Queen, perfection exists beyond assimilation. We face something that cannot be consumed. We face something absolute. Fear echoes through the collective, and fear is alien to them. Back in the tribunal space, the presence prepares its first test. It does not ask questions. It creates scenarios, each designed not to test power, but soul. They are placed aboard a Federation hospital ship under Dominion war conditions. Casualties overwhelm medical capacity. Resources are limited. Command must decide. Save a strategically vital officer, or a ship of civilians. Janeway takes command instinctively. Janeway, we save as many civilians as possible. Priority allocation to non-combatants. A Romulan delegate intervenes. Romulan Praetor, strategically foolish. Save command capability. Preserve infrastructure. The many outweigh the few, unless those few are crucial. Martok growls. Martok, cowardice. We save those who cannot save themselves. Picard watches quietly. Then he steps forward. Picard, we do not weigh worth by strategic value. We save because they are lives, and lives matter. The scenario freezes. A flash of light. The civilians are saved. The officer dies. But the presence shows what those civilians become. One becomes a major Federation diplomat preventing a future war. One becomes a scientist curing a plague. One simply becomes a parent who raises a child who later saves thousands. The lesson resonates. Presence. Compassion is not logical. Compassion is not strategic. Compassion is choice. Some understand. Some do not. The next test begins. The Federation is shown ultimate control. The ability to reshape the quadrant. End hunger permanently. End war. End every threat. With one simple act. Remove free will. A utopia of absolute control. No chaos. No suffering. Perfect order. The Borg Queen approves immediately. Borg Queen, perfection. The Romulans see advantage. The Klingon recoil. Martok, without struggle there is no honor. Without choice there is no life. Picard stares into the simulated stars. He remembers Locutus. He remembers assimilation. He remembers the horror of perfection. Picard, if a perfect universe requires enslaving the soul, then it is not a universe worth saving. Janeway nods. Spock simply states, Spock, a universe without freedom lacks meaning. The simulation collapses. The presence remains silent, but its silence is acknowledgement. Not everyone agrees. Certain Federation Council members secretly communicate to allies. If submission gives survival, should we submit? Internal fracture forms. Fear grows. The Federation utopia trembles under existential weight. Because ideals are easy when the stakes are low. They are tested when annihilation looms. Pressure fractures alliances. Romulans begin manipulating internal discussions. They claim humanity is weakly idealistic. They position themselves as stable alternatives. The Klingon challenge them openly. Martok, you slither in shadows while brave men stand judged. Perhaps that is why your empire always falls. Tension spikes. The Borg attempt to study the presence secretly. The presence notices. The Borg are struck still. Not destroyed. Not punished. Simply made to comprehend humility. They fall silent. For once, they learn. Picard isolates himself briefly. He places a hand on a railing. A quiet breath. Picard, if humanity fails here, then at least we faced our judge honestly. Riker stands beside him. Riker, we've survived everything thrown at us. We'll survive this too. Picard smiles faintly. Picard, this time survival may mean proving we deserve to survive. Janeway stands before a viewport watching starlight ripple. Her voice is softer. Janeway, we've always believed we were the hope of the galaxy. Now we must prove it was never arrogance. Spock meditates. Logic tells him nothing. Yet, for the first time, he feels faith. Not religious faith. faith and potential. And in the tribunal chamber, the presence prepares the ultimate escalation. Its next tests will not examine ethics in theory. They will test who the Federation is when reality burns. The galaxy tightens its breath. The sky darkens. And judgment deepens. The presence does not raise armies. It does not unleash superweapons. It does something infinitely more devastating. It removes the illusion of stability. The tribunal chamber collapses into darkness. Everyone finds themselves aboard their respective vessels, yet reality is altered. The Federation ceases to exist. Every charter undone. Every alliance erased. Every starbase non-functional. Records wiped. Treaties never signed. Federation history, unwritten. The Milky Way fractures. Humanity is thrust backward into a universe where the Klingon have resumed aggressive war expansion. The Romulans exploit chaos. The Dominion senses weakness. Old enemies return. Borders burn. And humanity stands alone again. Not powerful. Not influential. Not admired. Just surviving. This is not illusion. This is simulation at the level of truth. They feel hunger, fear, loss, isolation, and they remember nothing of utopia. Earth becomes a fortress world. Warships patrol ruined orbital grids. Resources are scarce. Unity teeters. Humanity fractures internally. Governments struggle to maintain order under chaos. Cities dim at night. Hospitals overflow. Trust is currency no one can afford. And still, humans refuse to surrender. The crew feels the change instantaneously. Federation insignia remain, but represent only humanity now. Riker grips his console. Riker, all diplomatic channels, gone. Allies unresponsive. We are isolated. Worf narrows his eyes. Worf, this is a warrior's world once again. Picard does not look defeated. He looks resolute. Picard, then we do as humanity has always done. We endure. We adapt. We survive. The Romulans strike border colonies. The Klingon test Earth defenses. The Cardassians see opportunity. Pirate fleets rise. The Borg appear at the edge of chaos. The galaxy spirals into conflict. The Presence watches. Not to see power, but to witness character. Humanity does something unexpected. They do not retreat into isolation. They do not conquer. They extend a hand. Even without the Federation, humanity tries to rebuild it. They rescue Klingon civilians stranded after a failed raid. They evacuate Romulan refugees fleeing internal collapse. They deliver aid to Cardassian worlds starving from neglected leadership. Janeway coordinates interstellar relief from Earth. Spock becomes a bridge for fragile Vulcan trust to rekindle. Picard leads crisis negotiations with no authority but his character. And it works, slowly, in pain. But honestly, civilizations begin to remember why the Federation existed. Because it wasn't imposed, it was earned. But the presence escalates. This test is not about charity. It is about identity. So a threat emerges across the galaxy. Not Dominion. Not Borg. Entropy. Stars begin to dim. Quantum cohesion weakens. Reality frays at the edges. This is not attack. This is universe death. Something every civilization must face eventually. Not through war, but through wisdom and courage. The galaxy now stands on the precipice of final annihilation. This is the breaking point and the defining moment of judgment. Civilizations respond very differently. Many seek glory in final war, but Chancellor Martok sees truth. Martok, victory is not conquest. Victory is defying oblivion. He unites Klingon houses, not to conquer, but to protect. They defend vulnerable systems without demanding tribute. They escort refugee convoys. They lay down their lives with honor not for empire, but for life. Internal politics fracture. Some want power in the chaos. Others understand extinction makes politics meaningless. A Romulan commander stands before the Senate and speaks. Commander, for once, let survival be our legacy instead of deception. Romulus mobilizes science and humanitarian fleets. Not elegant, not perfect, but sincere. The Borg cannot assimilate entropy. They cannot dominate oblivion. They confront a truth. Perfection requires existence. So for the first time, the Borg cooperate. They stabilize failing star systems. They share technology without assimilation. They sacrifice entire cubes to anchor collapsing space. The collective speaks a rare sentence. Borg, we choose coexistence. Not as conquerors. Not as rulers. Not as saviors. As equals. Picard coordinates a galactic effort. Janeway commands joint fleets. Spock guides unity with logic and quiet compassion. Humanity does not demand to lead. The galaxy asks them to. Because in the darkest hour, humanity still believes. Entropy converges. A supermassive instability forms at the center of the galaxy, a catastrophic unraveling of existence. If it collapses, reality will follow. Every fleet gathers. Klingon warships, Romulan warbirds, Borg cubes, Cardassian cruisers, Vulcan science vessels, Dominion forces. For the first time in history, every enemy stands side by side. Not in alliance, in mutual survival. This is not war. This is defiance of extinction. A plan forms. Borg stabilize dimensional structure. Vulcans calculate reinforcement fields. Romulans generate singularity anchors. Klingon hold defensive formations against spatial storms. Humans coordinate everything. This is not victory through might. This is victory through unity. Countless die. Ships fall. Heroes sacrifice. Entire fleets burn. But they do not stop. Not while existence still breathes. The final stabilization wave requires a deliberate sacrifice. A ship must plunge into the collapsing singularity with engines overloaded to create a stabilizing anchor. No guarantees. No return. Certain death. Picard volunteers. Riker objects. Riker, Jean-Luc, humanity needs you. Picard smiles faintly. Picard, humanity does not need me. It needs what I stand for. Janeway interrupts. Janeway, no. This is not your burden alone. Martok roars. Martok, Klingon do not let others die for them. Spock raises a hand calmly. Spock, this decision requires neither pride nor martyrdom. It requires logic. Silence. The multiple ships volunteer. Klingon, Romulan, human, Borg. A united sacrifice. Because survival is not a burden of one species. It is a shared duty. They decide together. And when the moment comes, they succeed. The universe stabilizes. The galaxy survives. Because they chose to be better even in hopelessness. Darkness fades. Light returns. The presence ends the test. They return to the tribunal chamber. Silence. No one cheers. No one celebrates. They are exhausted. Changed. Humbled. Improved. The presence fills the chamber again. But now, it feels less infinite. Not weaker. Simply closer. Presence. You have been tested in power. You have been tested in compassion. You have been tested in unity. You have been tested without hope. Pause. The galaxy breathes unevenly. Presence. Humanity. And its federation. Are worthy. Shock sweeps the chamber. Martok laughs triumphantly. Romulans appear stunned into thought. Borg dim lights in contemplative serenity. Picard simply closes his eyes briefly. Relief. And pride. But the presence is not finished. Presence. Not because you are perfect. Not because you are pure. But because when stripped of glory, power, and certainty, you still chose to care. Silence. Then one final pronouncement. You may fall again. You may fail again. But you will rise again. And that is enough. Light consumes the chamber. Reality returns. The Federation exists again. The galaxy restores. History realigns. The present remains only as a whisper in existence. Not as ruler. As witness. As judge who has passed verdict. And found hope justified. The universe is quiet. Not silent from fear. Silent from awe. The tribunal is gone. The cosmic arena no longer exists. In its place, the galaxy simply is again. The stars burn steadily. Space breathes. Reality feels stable in a way it never did before, as if the universe itself acknowledges the verdict. And everyone remembers. This was no dream. No illusion. No hypothetical. They were judged and they passed. But judgment leaves marks. Deep ones. Emergency condition rescinds. The war room's empty. The alarms cease, but no one cheers. They stand in stillness, absorbing the magnitude of what occurred. Janeway rests both hands on a console and exhales deeply, tension finally leaving her shoulders. Janeway, we survived. Admiral Paris nods slowly. Paris, no. We proved we deserved to. Federation officials review projected data. Starfleet intelligence files recommendations. Greater diplomatic reinforcement. Moral accountability frameworks. Emergency humanitarian expansion. Joint cross-faction treaties. Not because of fear, because of enlightenment. Meditation halls overflow not with panic, but quiet contemplation. Logic does not reject what happened. Logic incorporates it. T'Pol speaks before a council. T'Pol, evidence confirms we encountered a cosmic intelligence beyond linear comprehension. Emotional interpretations are irrelevant. The only logical conclusion is reflection. Vulcans meditate not only on existence, but on humility. Klingon halls roar. Not in mockery. Not in rebellion. In pride. Martok stands atop the High Council platform. Martok, we faced the judgment of the universe itself, and it did not break us. We stood as warriors. We protected even those we once called enemies. That is honor beyond battle. Klingon pound their chest. Tonight they feast not in triumph, but in respect. The Romulan Senate sits in rare silence. No political maneuvering. No deception. Only introspection. A new doctrine begins to form, not abandoning Romulan cunning or strength, but finally questioning what they've always believed. A senator whispers, perhaps the Federation's ideals were not naivety. Perhaps they were preparation. For the first time, Romulus contemplates something unprecedented. Trust. The Borg collective hums quietly. Not in conquest. In thought. They replay data of unity. Sacrifice. Cooperation without assimilation. The equation shifts. Perfection is not domination. Perfection may be choice. The collective whispers. We will observe differently. The galaxy trembles, not in fear of Borg aggression, but at the possibility of Borg growth. The crew recovers. Medical bays treat stress, exhaustion, psychological shock. Yet there is something in their eyes. A steadiness. A deeper understanding of their mission. They look at the stars now not as mapped routes or patrol sectors, but as a responsibility they are honored to protect. Picard stands quietly at the observation lounge window, watching Earth turn beneath them. The weight of history rests on his shoulders, not as burden, as fulfillment. Riker approaches slowly. Riker, Captain, how do you even begin to comprehend something like this? Picard smiles faintly. Picard, you don't. You live with it, and you let it make you better. He turns toward the stars. With humility and hope. Judgment does not simply pass. It transforms. The galaxy moves not through command, but through choice. A special session of the Federation Council convenes, not in panic but in solemn purpose. They draft new accords. A permanent interstellar humanitarian coalition. A non-military shared research initiative. Refugee protection mandates. Crisis response unity doctrine. A single resolution echoes. If we were deemed worthy, we must continue to prove it. Not to the presence, to themselves. The Klingons sign a new cooperative defense treaty, not subservient, aligned in honor. Romulans initiate unprecedented diplomatic transparency. Cardassians request cooperation instead of exploitation. Even the Dominion sends envoys, cautious, wary, curious. Enemies do not become friends overnight, but respect becomes real. And respect is the foundation of peace. Janeway stands on a balcony overlooking San Francisco Bay. For the first time in a long time, she feels peace. Janeway, all the battles, all the sacrifices, maybe they were leading to this. Spock meditates under Vulcan's suns, calm serenity grounding cosmic revelation. Spock, infinite diversity and infinite combinations, proven on a universal scale. Martok sharpens his blade, then sets it gently aside. Martok, there are battles worth fighting beyond conquest. The Borg Queen gazes into starlight, questioning identity itself. Borg Queen, perhaps evolution did not end. Perhaps it merely changed direction. And Picard? He sits in his ready room. A cup of Earl Grey in hand. The galaxy quiet. the burden lighter. He whispers to himself, "Picard, we are small, and that is all right, because even the smallest star can shine." The universe turns. Stars burn calmly again. But something fundamental remains changed. Not in space. In spirit. The presence does not return. No further messages. No lingering command. No divine leash. Only memory. Only meaning. Only the quiet certainty that the universe once looked at humanity, truly looked, and did not see monsters, tyrants, or children pretending to be gods. Saw a species flawed. Capable of destruction. Capable of cruelty. But capable of compassion greater than logic. Courage deeper than fear. Unity stronger than inevitability. And when stripped of glory, when stripped of comfort, when stripped of certainty, humanity still chose to care. That is what makes them worthy. That is what makes the Federation worthy. Not perfection. Potential. The stars continue to shine. The warp engines hum. Life goes on. And somewhere beyond comprehension, a presence watches. Not as judge. As witness. As quiet guardian of a universe where, for today at least, hope proved stronger than despair. In a galaxy of infinite worlds, infinite dangers, and infinite unknowns, the most powerful force is not technology, not weaponry, not gods. It is the simple, stubborn refusal of sentient beings to stop caring for one another. And so, the Federation continues. Not as rulers of the galaxy. Not as flawless utopia. But as something far greater. A promise. Fade to starlight.